Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the RedSeaPodcast. Welcome back to another late night addition to the show, and welcome back to another Euroleague recap. This time, perhaps a not so convoluted one as the one 2 days ago, but certainly it's a recap of utter importance. It's a recap of not a lot, but very important points to be made, with one relatively obvious one being at the top of that list, which we'll get into, of course. And the recap after a game that really looked more unpredictable than it needed to be, especially at the start. And let's get right into it at that. As we went into the game knowing that Baskonia was, to put it in as light terms as possible, relatively decimated. Of course, there was the last minute addition of Cabarro, but the already severely underperforming and still, I'm pretty sure, 19th Baskonia came to serve as an underdog, as a severe underdog, without wanting to sound too egotistical, perhaps. But that's not what the first half, I was going to say the first quarter, but that's not what the first half really showed, as turnover ridden and very rushed. Olympiacos fell behind, not by a lot, but fell behind even until the end of the first quarter, which of course ended 19-24, and then crawled back, but the game was still relatively unpredictable and way more even than expected, as of course the score at halftime was only separated by one, as the game was 41-40. Now, there was of course a glaring positive and a glaring negative of the first half. The glaring positive has a name, and that's Nikola Milutinov. Niko Milutinov, especially in the first quarter, had the majority of impact of Olympiacos, both offensively and defensively, and once again took his chance to prove why he's the best big in Europe, and why, once again, Olympiacos is based on a defensive first type of basketball, because the moment that anyone tried to step up to Niko Milutinov, he stopped them, and he himself created an attacking opportunity that perhaps he even went up to score. But in the second half, especially in the third quarter, we saw Olympiacos be Olympiacos, as the score at the end of the third had started to open up, as it was 69-62. And then, of course, the game ended 90-80. You could put the performance up to a lot of things. Of course, severe exhaustion from two back-to-back double weeks. Severe exhaustion also because of the draining game against Fenerbahce. You can't underestimate that game in any way, shape, and form. And the important thing was the result that came our way eventually, after, as I said, perhaps a bit more struggle than was meant to be, that still has us breathing down Fener's neck, with Fenerbahce standing at 23-9 and us standing at 22-11. Of course, with the games now being done, there is Hapoel below us that stands at 20-11. Real Madrid that just lost to Zalgiris stand at 20-12. Same for Valencia, as Zalgiris now climb up to 18-14. Monaco find themselves 7th, with Pana, who just picked up a win against Zvezda, just basically catching up to them. And then Barca tops off the top 10, with Dubai being right on the heels of the teams above. It's really going to be chaotic, but we'll get into that as we head back into the game. As consistent as we still were mid-range wise, the threes were just not there yesterday, as we finished with 4 out of 22, leaving us at a mere 18%. But on the other hand, the rebounds were right there to be had, as we had a plus 11 advantage with 39 to Baskonia's 28, which is a testament to the incredible games of Nico Milutinov and Tyreek Jones. Assists were more even, but we once again proved why we are top of that list, as the ball was moved around expertly, especially in the second half, as we had 25 assists, but the 12 turnovers are there, which on one hand is a negative, on one hand is a positive, because the turnover to assist ratio is still very good. It's still very good, but the rash decisions that showed yesterday, due to whichever factor, is something to be avoided, especially heading into the final stretch, which of course, I'm not complaining. As I said, the most important thing by a mile was the result itself. There was no need to even pay attention to the difference. And since the result came, and we are gonna bounce off it with momentum, mind you, I'm more than happy with how we are at right now. And speaking of the two names that I mentioned first of all, and I'll get into them really quickly, and that of course is Nico Milutinov and Tyreek Jones. Of course, Donta Hall did not get included, as was Frank Nilikina, but they were left out, of course, for two different reasons. Donta Hall was purely a choice, but Frank Nilikina is once again suffering from discomfort in his adductor. But getting back to Nico Milutinov, of course, Nico put up 17 in 23 with 70%, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, and an incredible defensive game with just 1 turnover to add to it as well. He's the one that kept us close in the first and slowly helped us tilt into the control of the game to eventually see it out like we did. Nico Milutinov is the best center in the Euroleague. I have stood on that hill ever since the start of the season and even pre-season, and I will die on that hill. I will proudly forever say that when people, especially in our fandom, because I really don't care what Pana fans have to say, when people in our fandom did question the man, I said that with the confidence that he'll have as a starter, there is no doubt in my mind that Nico Milutinov will transform into the monster of a center that he can be and perform as the best of the best. And that's exactly what he's doing. And he will keep doing that, knock on wood. with him staying healthy in the final stretch towards the playoffs, and of course in the playoffs themselves. But something that, of course, without a singular doubt, has helped with that is the frightening presence of Tyreek Jones. Tyreek, who did have a tiny little slump of form over the past few games, came back with a vengeance in this one, with 15 points in 17, with 100% field goal range, with 2 rebounds to himself and a steal. And I spoke about it 2 days ago, word for word, I think, but we saw the living example of it once again. Tyreek Jones's game doesn't just have on-court effects, it has off-court effects either. Because tell me 2 other players in this squad that can pull off a dunk that impressive in the final play of a game against Baskonia of all teams and have the crowd just go insane with 2 seconds left in the game. Tyreek was explosive. Tyreek proved his athleticism, his dominance once again, and he closed the mouths of any doubters that may somehow have been there, right? And it's not to be underestimated that behind those 2 is still Donta Hall. And even as a factor in the GBL, giving a rest to Tyreek and Nico Milutinov, this man, if he continues to play at his best, I will also die on the hill that he is a wonderful, if not luxury, third choice center. And I think that's the safest way to put something out for a player that would start for the majority of the Euroleague. So I really don't think that is in any single way an over-exaggeration, right? But speaking of pure effect in the game, MVP, Sasha Vezenkov. Sasha, even on an off night, like, come on, Sasha missed a wide open corner 3. Like, come on. Sasha, even on an off night, I've said this many times, when he is at his best, even on an off, even on a quiet night, he'll put up 20. As he did in 27, he put up 20 with 56%, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists with 0 turnovers. 0 turnover. This man's insane. You are talking about the most prolific scorer in the league, as this man has now put up 100 points in his last 2 games without a singular 3, which is an insane stat, but it shows how Sasha can just pull out 2 points from seemingly dust. And the effect this man is having in the game is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It truly, really is. And it's unprecedented how this man is still overrated and still very underappreciated by some people. Because we are talking about a man that is going head on to get that MVP trophy for himself. I know he says he doesn't care, and of course the main goal, as it should be, is the Euroleague, but he's heading straight for it, even though I will stand on the hill that Nico Milutinov deserves an outsider out of it as well. But Sasha is back in that mode that it doesn't really matter what others do. Sasha is he's just better. He's just better. And of course, general impact in the game again is nothing to be underappreciated. And I do want to start with a man that I gave praise to last time, but I apparently didn't give enough praise to, as Thomas Walkup once again played 25, had an incredible defensive impact, and aside from his 2 points and 2 rebounds, he once again scored lead, put up 6 assists, and of course had 3 steals. But one of the most important things, as I mentioned last time as well, is along with this man's consistency, he just brings a coldness to the game. And for the past 2 games, he's had no turnovers. I don't know how I didn't realize against Fener, but once again against Baskonia, he had not a single turnover in sight, which is something that needs to be pointed out. Of course, Evan Fournier didn't have the game he had against Fenerbahce, but he put up a very solid 6, 3, and 5 with a steal and a block added to that. And of course, the leadership factor that he brought once again, and the peace of mind he brought once again, and the momentum he gave the team is something to be very severely mentioned. I thought Corey Joseph had, despite him statistically not having that much of an impact, I thought he had he put up a wonderful 12 minutes once again. Just a very calm 12 minutes, helping immensely whenever and wherever he was needed. But we have, sadly, the main negative of this game to talk about, and that's Monte Morris. I want you all to tell me your opinions below. I really want your opinions below, because I don't know what to think about this subject. I love Monte as a player. I really do. But will he be ready in the playoffs at this rate? Can he be ready in the playoffs at this rate? I'm hoping that Frank is back and healthy very soon. But can this man, I know he's putting in the work. I have no doubts that he's putting in the work. But in a game where Nilikina was out and he had the chance to give something, he played 3 minutes. And okay, yeah, I get that he hasn't had time, but that more shows me that he's not ready, more than Barjokas not letting him play, and Barjokas knowing that he needs to help protect him. So I'm hoping that come playoffs, this man can show what he can do, because he can do so much more than people expect. He really can, and it's sad to see a player of Monte's ability and class play 3 minutes barely. But yeah, as I said, we are heading into the final stretch of games. Just a few left. Of course, we have Valencia on the 24th. Then we have Pana in the league as well. Real, Hapoel, and Armani. And that's that. Then we head into the playoffs. It's a lot, and I leave with a parting message that I did last time, that we need everyone at 1,000,000%, including the fans. And I am more than positive and more than confident as things stand. So hopefully we can see what this team deserves. That's all. Just a calm and collected recap of a game that really didn't have many points to stand on, but the few points it did were very, very positive, aside, of course, from the whole Morris conversation. As always, thank you all so much for watching and for the support. We keep growing on the daily, and I couldn't be more grateful. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, evening, or night, whenever you're listening. All the links are below. Comment your opinions, agreements, disagreements, questions, and everything, no matter which platform you're watching on, and as I said, or listening. And I'll see you all either on Sunday or Monday. Thank you.